This is Maestro, and I'm back with Steven Espinoza.
2 days in a row.
2 days in a row. I'm trying to make it 4 days in a row.
All right.
So look, I reached out to some of my subs, and they are from the UK, and they've had questions about kind of some of the like executive level things that regular schmegular public school teachers like myself and YouTubers won't know about.
Okay.
So the first question has to do with Conor Benn and the rumor that he was slated to fight Keith Thurman. Anything you could tell us about that? Keith Thurman and Conor Benn. Were there any negotiations, any reach outs about that?
No. I mean, that is, there's certain individuals in the UK who I think like throwing out names like Keith Thurman.
Yeah.
In order to prop their guy up.
Yeah.
It's sort of a tired tactic, but somehow it still works.
Yeah.
Throw out, 3 big names and a 4th small name as potential opponents.
Yeah.
You can tell it's going to be the 4th small name. It's not the 3 big names that you throw out that get all the headlines.
Yeah.
So no, there wasn't any meaningful discussion on that.
Okay. The other question I had, a lot of people were disappointed in the UK, not necessarily people here in New York like myself, but that Adam Kalnaki's fighting Demiriz, the Turkish fighter, and not Derek Del Boy Chisora. Again, this was presented as a fight that got into the way of a Del Boy fight with Adam Kalnaki. Any truth to that?
There's this alternate bubble of this alternate reality bubble over there of stuff that was never discussed, not in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of Konoski opponents that were discussed. Chisora was not one of them. And by the way, this opponent, Marizian, is, he's a tough. Actually, when I checked it, he's a betting favorite right now.
Very tough. He's standing right there to your left. I just spoke with him. He's giving us the head nod.
He's
it's going to be a good fight.
He's a real guy.
Yeah.
It's one of those categories where sometimes boxing fans, even the knowledgeable ones, think if I haven't heard from him, then maybe he's not that good. This is one, you cannot sleep on this guy. He is a legitimate, tough, skilled heavyweight.
With a significant amateur background.
Absolutely.
Out of Turkey, fought at the international level as an amateur.
Absolutely. So this is, Konoski, I give him all the credit in the world, coming off 2 tough fights against Lanius. This isn't a comeback fight. I would argue this is even a tougher fight than Helenius is.
There you go. Last question, and this is more to do with kind of what's happening here in New York City with variants. During the pandemic, the height of it, fights were getting canceled. This was before the vaccine rollout. This was when there was a lot of fear about COVID. How is that now impacting the delivery of sporting events? Is that something that Showtime or other networks are still concerned about?
It definitely is. I mean, I can tell you from our perspective, if we look over the last 6 or 8 weeks, whether we have a show or not have a show, I'd say 3 or 4 members of the staff every week are coming down with it. Thankfully, we've got a much better handle. I mean, we collectively have a much better handle on how to treat it and how to not let it get out of control and things like that. So it's not as alarming, but it's out there. I had it over Memorial Day weekend. My girlfriend had it last week. It's still going out there. I don't think that we're going to go back into the bubble and cancellation and things like that, knock on wood, for 2 reasons. One, the medical institutions had such a better handle on it, on how to treat it and how to keep people out of the hospitals. And 2, and you see it from mask wearing and all the other precautions, people are sick of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I don't think people are going to really tolerate the kind of lockdowns we had before.
There you go.
Even if it's necessary.
Or fight cancellations, right?
Yeah, or fight cancellations. Now look, that's the thing. I mean, we're probably, in terms of the employees and production people and all that, look, we trust them. We have some procedures in place and policies, but largely it's sort of left up to the individual. We are taking a lot of protections against our fighters.
Yeah.
And that's why, for example, Adrian Broner made some waves this past week. He wasn't happy that he was doing a press conference on Zoom.
Yeah.
Now there's just no point in, when you've got a big fight coming back, and for someone like Adrian who hasn't fought in a while, why risk getting on a plane? Why risk, catching something. It's out there. It's very contagious. We're not taking any chances with, in-person events to the extent that they're not absolutely necessary.
And were there any followed-up discussions with Adrian after that? If anything, I think it helped the promotion of the fight. But between you,
I mean, we talked. Look, I get it. Like, he's anxious to come back. He's got pressure. He wants, to, the same amount, but the same amount of publicity and awareness that he's had in the past. But the reality, this is a different time, and it had everything to do with, being cautious about things. I mean, did the same thing with, believe we did the same thing on the Charlo fight.
Yeah.
Originally. So the reality, I get it, but I think once we explained, what the real reason was, it wasn't a slight to Adrian. I think he understood it better.
There you go. Fights you're looking forward to most as we kind of get towards the end of the summer and kind of approach the fall. What's on your agenda?
Well, look, there's the two that everyone asks us about all the time. There's obviously Spence Crawford, which I'm still optimistic about. I know there's been some negative stuff coming out lately, but no one's given up at this point, and I still think I'd say there's a better than 50-50 chance that we get it this year. Ryan and Tank, ongoing discussions, still very early in that process. And so, look, there's some significant obstacles there, but, again, Tank and Ryan both want the fight very badly. And then looking forward, like, I think we'll see Benavidez back before the end of the year. And speaking of a guy that we just saw here that I'm anxious to see, Rayo Valenzuela. Having him back, like he made a big impact.
Team Benavidez as well.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So he's someone who I want to see. Like, let's put him in tougher and see if he's able to keep stepping up the way he has. Like, that's one of the young guys that I'm more excited about to see in the second half of the year.
There you go. And one second, I got two more questions. The fight between Usyk and Joshua, the rematch. Quite famously, Sky Sports outbid the Zone for that. I don't believe a U.S. broadcaster has been announced for that fight. Is Showtime at all interested in that?
We would definitely be interested. Again, I think the Sky thing took most people by surprise because coming off the announcement, I think the assumption was Joshua would be worldwide DAZN going forward. Now it turns out, in the UK, he's not DAZN, and it also turns out that maybe there are other territories that are open as well. If the U.S. is open, if North America is open, and they are considering broadcasters, then we would definitely raise our hand for it. Obviously we'd have to talk about terms and financial, and it is the same day as Adrian, so it would take a little bit of coordinating, but it's not out of the question. Look, it's an interesting fight. It's arguably maybe the most important fight of Joshua's career to this point. I mean, you could certainly argue, the Klitschko fight was probably his biggest one, but I think this one might be the most important one just because what it represents right now.
Yeah, and he's got history with Showtime.
Yeah, we did 6 fights with him before, and look, our job is to bring the best fights that we can to people, and and that's obviously a very high-level fight.
Steven, muchísimas gracias, señor.
A usted. Gusto verlo.
Absolutamente, igualmente. And impressive turnout here. A lot of energy. I'm really looking forward to this fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, I said it yesterday and I meant it. I don't say things, just out of exaggeration. I'm legitimately excited about this card. I'll be there at 5 o'clock. I want to see the opening fight. I want to see Junior Yunin. I want to see, Vito. I want to see Derevyanchenko. And then the 3 fights on the card. I think, look, when you have Gary Russell, Kanaki, Benavidez, and Garcia, those are 3 action, aggressive fighters. There won't be a boring fight on television.
This is the Showtime boxing I grew up with, so I'm very happy. Not everything needs to be a world title fight to be significant, and this is the kind of fight that I appreciate getting as part of my Showtime membership.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the truth, like it's a little bit of the model. When we've got a 3-fight card, we'll usually have a big fight at the card, sometimes a world title fight. The middle card will usually be maybe a title fight, but it's something that's sort of meaningful, a crossroads fight. And the opening fight will try to highlight somebody young, and that's what we're doing. Gary Antoine Russell, his toughest fight to date. Kanaki in a very tough crossroads fight that's going to determine where he goes. and then a great matchup in the main event.
There you go, Steven. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
You got it, brother.